Bill Martinez here. Jessica Anderson is joining us now, the Vice President of Heritage Action. Jessica, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good morning, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Well, we saw in the movie Unplanned, it was quite revealed, the story of Abby Johnson. And in fact, we're going to be talking to the directors later on this week as well, because they are doing a record number up in Canada with Unplanned as well. But it was clear in that movie that Planned Parenthood was not necessarily about women's health. They were primarily about where the money was and where they could get it, and that was abortion. And this past week, with the removal of Leana Wen, Dr. Wen, as president after less than a year of service, this brought this more to bear, did it not?
Oh, it absolutely did. And it frankly, it showed exactly how just visceral this fight is within the left and within Planned Parenthood's own organization about whether or not abortion is healthcare or is abortion a fundamental activist right of the extreme political left. And that was perfectly encapsulated with Dr. Wen's removal / stepping down, which one it was. The chicken or the egg came first there, and it really made a very clear message, I think, to Americans across the country that Planned Parenthood is first and foremost a political organization, and because of that, they shouldn't receive any taxpayer dollars, and Congress needs to move to defund them, and we need to do all we can to continue to shed light on this, and movies like Unplanned, I think, do that very well, as does this fracture within the left that we saw with her stepping aside as the executive director.
I think this is a loss, losing Dr. Wen. It's a huge loss for Planned Parenthood because of to me, Dr. Wen had a heart that she expressed for women, a genuine heart, almost like Abby Johnson, I would say, that was concerned really, truly about women's health. And because she was not focused primarily on abortion, she's out of the club.
Well, that's right. And she had an op-ed in the New York Times over the weekend, which basically says just that she wanted to focus on the holistic view of women's health, pre- and post-natal care, looking at kind of the steps of a woman when she becomes pregnant and kind of treating her in total. And that was clearly not the direction that the board of Planned Parenthood wanted to go. They wanted to continue to double down on the abortion side. And she actually says that she was criticized earlier in her tenure because she didn't focus enough on the abortion rights side of what Planned Parenthood does. And Planned Parenthood has long said this, that they do multiple things. They do women's health, and they provide the abortion service. We, from a conservative perspective, have had a lot of problems with that simply because they receive taxpayer dollars. Right. And the money that is fungible within Planned Parenthood, while they may say it doesn't go towards abortions, the reality is they can reallocate as they see fit with their books. And so right. I think this step away from, okay, let's think of women's health and what sort of needs are required across the country for women's health care, and instead doubling down on abortion rates just shows how far Planned Parenthood is moving to that extreme left.
Well, it doesn't take a marketing genius to figure out the model of Planned Parenthood. I mean, first of all, most of their facilities are in poor areas, especially black areas.
From schools.
Right, exactly. And their plan was, okay, we're going to get people comfortable in coming into our building, but this was all kind of like the Roach Motel. On the outside it looked pleasant. You got in, next thing you know, all doors go to and all pathways go to the abortion room. It starts out very innocently. You get used to seeing this. This is all about women and women's rights, and you buy into it in much the same way. Again, this is, I think, was so revealing about Abby Johnson's story in the movie Unplanned, because you can understand how people's vision and their perspective can be altered. How a little bit of good seems to be acceptable, and you tolerate the very bad.
Yeah, I definitely think that's right. And one of the things that I think this fight and this evolution of Planned Parenthood is showing is that there are real alternatives out there that don't lead you down the end path of abortion. And when you look at pregnancy resource centers or care centers or hope centers, they're called different things across the country, but they've been putting up shop within walking distance of Planned Parenthood to encourage those women that are in low socioeconomic areas, that are in these tough neighborhoods, or as I said, they're positioned outside of high schools and universities and colleges, but to say, look, there's an alternative. The door, the hallway doesn't need to lead to the abortion door. There are other options available to women. If you do have a pregnancy that you don't, you're not sure that you can tackle and you can handle, bring the baby to term. Let's look at adoption. There are so many families in need and wanting to adopt, not only domestically but abroad. And so filling that need, there are other ways that we can come alongside the woman, help her find a skill, a trade, a job, get out of whatever bad environment she might be in. I mean, some of these pregnancy resource centers, I've seen some down in South Florida, actually have homes that are being built where girls can move from their troubled situation into the home with a commitment that you'll get a job, you'll learn a skill, you'll have a trade, and we'll help you raise your baby and get you back to feet. And so, that's the kind of philosophy I would like to see around women's health, which is instead of pushing towards abortion, it's pushing towards how do we make the woman a valuable member of society, and part of that includes raising and rearing the child so that they have a fighting chance, just as she did.
Exactly. Well, we support an organization here in South Florida called CareNet, and that's what they do.
Oh, good.
So we're very involved with this organization because, the thing is, again, when you consider the health of the women, what's not being talked about, Jessica, is how many women who are subjected or who have made a choice for abortion, and the long-lasting, the life, their entire life, the burden of this abortion presses upon them. Some, it's led them to suicide. They've carried this thing. I mean, I've talked to women, and I've said this on our show many times. I've talked to women, and they'll say, Bill, my child would have been 13 today, or my child would have been 14. I was interviewing a director, because this is the other thing, too, is I think it's a matter of time, Jessica. We start hearing from the men, and I say it's going to be the biblical cry, the male version of the cry of Rachel, where men wake up and realize, oh, my God, I participated in the murder of my child and my daughter. And I am interviewing one of the writers and directors of the movie Roe v. Wade, which is coming out a little bit later on. And he told me right there in the interview, he goes, Bill, my child would have been 21. And I mean, the tears going down his face. And I'm thinking, oh my God. I mean, it just breaks your heart. But this is why, at the front of the line of leading against this lie that we bought into in Roe v. Wade in 1973, the women who have experienced are coming back and saying, it's a lie, sister. Don't buy into this stuff. It is not a massive tissue. If it was just tissue and was meaningless, why is my heart broken? Why does my spirit grieve over something that was so inconsequential?
Yeah, and even Roe, the woman that would come to embody Roe in Roe v. Wade, has said the very exact same thing. So you're right. This is a long-term education campaign that we need to do to pull back the truth of these organizations like Planned Parenthood. And I think Dr. Wen stepping aside actually helps us in that direction, although she probably didn't mean for it to, and helps us continue to show for women everywhere there are great organizations like pregnancy resource centers or CareNet that can help support women after their pregnancies.
And there are women out there looking out for women for all the right reasons. That's why I say when you look at who's in front leading the charge of closing down these abortion clinics, it's the women who have experienced it firsthand, and they themselves know the truth by experience. Jessica Anderson, she's the Vice President of Heritage Action, has been with us. Jessica, thank you so much. Appreciate the time. Take care.